Good morning, everyone. This is Jeff with Cyber Pro Podcast. It is a sunny Thursday, and we are back again with another fascinating episode. Today, my guest is the CEO of Blackswan Cybersecurity, Mike Saylor. Good morning.
Morning.
In a few words, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
I'll try to do it in a few words. I'm pretty long-winded sometimes, but I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a learner, life learner. I'm currently working on my doctorate in cybersecurity as well. Been in cyber in IT for almost 30 years. I've been a college professor for almost 24 years. I'm an innovator. I'm a researcher. I'm a mentor. But I think sum it all up, I love to teach. I love to share, whether it's cyber or life lessons or job, career path discussions. I love the support, especially in the community, wherever I can.
I love the two key words you just said. You're an entrepreneur / CEO as well as an instructor teacher. That is a very fascinating delta. So let's talk about that for a second. With that background of doing and teaching, what do you find to be the most fascinating aspect of being a cyber professional during these crazy times?
Well, what's interesting is cybersecurity is kind of this sexy thing. People see it on TV, they hear about it, whether it's the news or a movie, and they want to do it. They don't feel fulfilled in their current role, whether they're in medical or legal or accounting or IT operations. They want to gravitate to this new thing that's probably got a really long and probably unending career opportunity, career path. And so they get into cyber. And as a teacher, I see all these excited people. I'm going to do cyber. I'm going to learn. And I ask them, well, what is it that you want to do in cyber? And they're like, what do you mean? I just want to do cyber. I said, well, that's kind of like saying you want to be a doctor. A doctor of what? Foot doctor, ear, nose, throat, brain doctor. I had a neuroscience graduate. He graduated a university degree and came to our cyber program because he was waiting for his medical training to start. And he actually enjoyed cyber enough that he changed careers. After investing so much time in becoming a brain surgeon, now he's a cyber guy. But what's fascinating to me is people are excited about the topic of cyber, but they don't really even know what it means. And so then you dig into some of what are the different jobs and disciplines in cyber, and then they think, well, I know what a hacker is. I saw that on TV. I want to be a hacker. Okay, well let's dive into what it means to be a hacker, and they learn very quickly that and for the most part, most of them learn very quickly that being a hacker is not the life choice they want.
Yeah.
They don't want to. They enjoy their sleep too much. They enjoy their social life too much. They're easily distracted, and they want a job today that pays well, not have to invest the next 5 years in getting the experience they need to be a true, notable hacker that makes a lot of money. And then you got others, forensics, doing some of the engineering work. All that stuff kind of falls under cyber. And there's actually a lot of jobs in cyber that people don't think about. Because managing, as an example of being a manager, a people manager in cyber is a lot different than being a people manager in other areas like accounting or business or marketing. These cyber people are their personalities, their quirks, and the way they do their work is a lot different. And if you don't know how to manage that, it's going to drive you nuts. They're not 8 to 5 people. They're 6 p.m. to 4 a.m. and then or 30 hours straight, and then they crash for 2 days. You don't see them. You have to make sure they didn't die or energy drinks. And so that's a pretty niche skill to manage teams of cyber people that a lot of you don't think about.
We're going down the rabbit hole deep here because now you've said 3 additional things which I want to combine and drill into a little bit. You talked about this neuroscientist, right? And you're talking about folks that have traditionally come from a traditional background, traditional educational system. And now all of a sudden you jump into a world where, academia is just now trying to figure out what is that education to get these guys to be good cyber professionals. And we still don't actually know what it is. And
Right.
so now we find ourselves in an unfortunate place where the bad actors greatly outnumber the good actors. So, how do we educate and train the next generation of cyber professional, because we are starting from a blank slate. There is no 300 years worth of history of how to be a doctor, right? So where do we go from here?
Well, there's a couple of things that you said that strike some thoughts. One of them, and probably one of the most important, and it touches on the last piece that you mentioned, and it is we have to improve the collaboration within the cyber industry. As a cyber professional, you've got to be willing and open to collaborate with other cyber professionals because you've seen stuff they haven't. They've seen stuff and responded to stuff that you haven't. But we've also got to share what we know with the people that are trying to get into cyber. They want to be a hacker or forensics or an analyst or an engineer. We've got to, as quickly as possible, acclimate them to what that really means to determine if they're going to invest those 3 or 5 years in becoming that expert. Because if it's not, the faster they learn that and can pivot to a discipline that does better align with their personality and their career goals and their personal goals, um, the better maintaining of that passion and desire, that focus. And that's another problem. People want to get into cyber, and it's hard because they picked the wrong focus, and
Mm.
because it was hard, they changed their career goals altogether. Now they're not in cyber, and we actually see that a lot in junior high and high school, and not just cyber specifically, but with math and science in general. Kids are inherently inquisitive and curious, and they apply that stuff in challenging ways like science and math. And as they come up through junior high, it's the social impacts that change their focus. And so, very very talented math and science kids in junior high end up doing art and theater and other things because their friends do that, or they're being pressured or criticized for being on chess club or super smart. And so it's no different in college. Is if you don't have the right mentoring and support and collaboration, then you're going to it's just human nature. We're going to choose the easiest path for any reason. One is because you discipline, or your life choices, or your life in your environment, your family. You need money. You need more time off. You need whatever it is. It's too far to drive. It's not a remote job. Things like that. So
Yeah, yeah, that's a whole other conversation about how,
sure.
right, we're dealing with cybersecurity, but at the core of it, we're still human beings with all of those fallacies and ability to be swayed by other people. But you said, so along those lines, you actually said something super interesting, which was that we take the easiest path because we as human beings, I mean, honestly, we tend to be lazy sometimes. And when you're talking about this next generation of cyber professional, and they are, honestly, kids, they're young, they're malleable, but at the same time, they're also going to be lazy. And so they're entering a journey where they've got to quickly figure out if this is a path, as you said, of what they wanted to do, and learn the skills that are applicable today. But something you said before we started recording was that it's equally important to look backwards as it is to look forwards in dealing with the bad guys, because at the end of the day, because we are all human and a little bit lazy, and the bad guys want what they want, they're not going to go recreate the wheel. They're going to do something that has worked in the past, that has worked, and take the easiest path. So how do we share with our students, hey, you know what? It is important for us to look back too, as well as looking forward. And there is a balance. How do we do that?
I think there's a lot of interesting ways of doing that. One is just giving them exposure to stuff. I took my son to the National Video Game Museum, which is here in North Texas, and there was a rotary telephone there on like a mock bedroom where they had an Atari and some other old game systems. And there's this green rotary telephone, and he's like, "What is this?" And I said, that was a telephone, and you had to rotate the dial and do these things. And he said, "Well, how do you charge it?" And I said, "Well, it's plugged into the wall. Back in the day, phone cables had power coming through them and this kind of thing." And he was like, "This just doesn't seem right." And but what I had the opportunity to explain to him was, well, that was actually an attack vector a long time ago. Phone lines and even the rotary phones or the push button tone phones, that was an attack vector. And if you didn't understand that, which by the way is still applicable today because there are still modems attached to organizations around the world, especially in the energy sector, oil and gas, those remote oil drilling and water pump sites, those are using dial-up modems still in a lot of cases. And if you didn't know how to use a phone with touch tones and phone lines, then you wouldn't know how to, one, understand the attack, possibly prevent it or put something in place to identify the attack. But so that's a kind of a good example of learning backwards. And to your point, bad guys are lazy. A lot of the attacks that are even out there today, aside from some of the encryption stuff, but some of the traditional attacks are based on successful frameworks and attack, malware and other things that were developed years ago, and they're simply taking that successful pre-built, robust framework and adding the little nuances to whatever their particular attack is. And bad guys don't target. Typically, bad guys don't, pick somebody out and target them. They're very lazy and running queries and scripts across the internet looking for known vulnerabilities that they're skilled at attacking. And they'll dig into those to determine if that's where they want to spend their time.
Targets of opportunity. In case I didn't tell you, Mike, I'm a Haitian prince and I've got $10 million. I need your help to get out.
Sure.
Well, for those of our viewers who want to learn a little bit about you, Mike, maybe about Blackswan, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
855 Blackswan, info at Blackswan, Blackswan LinkedIn, Blackswan on Twitter, personally Professor Saylor on Twitter, and also on LinkedIn.
Excellent. Well, thank you again for the time. I'm going to get one more question out of you for bonus content. But for those of our viewers who don't know, we typically put 2 to 3 episodes up a week with interesting and fascinating folks like Mike. And hopefully you gained a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of information, and get that brain going a little bit more, because the bad guys are out there and we need to keep up with them and hopefully stay one step ahead of them. So again, thank you, Mike, for your time. Be well.
Thank you.
You made it to the end. Thanks for watching the Cyber Pro podcast today. You can find more content here and there.